the vast expanse of the Milky Way galaxy, humanity had evolved from a species confined to a single blue planet to an interstellar power. Earth, once considered a dangerous world due to its harsh conditions, had produced equally dangerous inhabitants, humans, along with several other species from similar high gravity, high radiation, and predator-filled worlds, had earned the moniker Deathworlders, feared and respected across the galaxy for their innate toughness and combat capabilities. The sprawling metropolis of New Beijing on Earth served as the headquarters for the Terran Interstellar Defense Force. Colonel Alaric Lorne stood at the viewport of the command center, watching ships come and go from the busy spaceport below. His weathered face reflected decades of combat experience, with a scar running from his left temple down to his jaw, a reminder of a close encounter with a Viridian blade beast on a frontier world. At 45, he still maintained the physique of a soldier in his prime, muscles toned from years of training in Earth's punishing gravity. "Colonel," a voice called from behind him, "we've received a distress signal." Alaric turned to see Lieutenant Maya Rodriguez, his communications officer, approaching with a data tablet in hand. Her expression was grave. "From where?" he asked, taking the tablet from her. "A planet called Icarus, sir. It's in the Cygnus arm, about 30 light-years from our furthest outpost." Alaric studied the information on the screen. Icarus, a Class M planet with vast oceans and flourishing ecosystems. The inhabitants, the Igarians, were known for their advanced medical and scientific achievements, but they had never developed military technology. They were, as the report indicated, a peaceful species that had never known war. "They're under attack," Maya continued, "from something they call the Ravagers." Alaric's eyes narrowed as he scrolled through the message. "They're requesting immediate military assistance from any species willing to help. Sir, according to our databases, the Igarians have always avoided contact with Deathworlders. They consider us dangerous." A grim smile crossed Alaric's face. Ironic that they're calling for help from the very species they've avoided. He handed the tablet back to Maya. "Assemble the senior staff. We need to make a decision." Within the hour, Alaric stood before a table of his most trusted officers in the Strategic Command Center. The holographic display in the center showed the Igarian distress signal playing on a loop. "The Ravagers have destroyed our outer settlements." The blue-skinned Igarian diplomat in the recording pleaded. "Our people are dying by the thousands. We have no defenses against their weapons. Please, to any species who can hear this message, we beg for your assistance." Alaric switched off the recording and looked around the table. "Thoughts?" Commander Talon Kane, Alaric's second-in-command and oldest friend, spoke first. His voice was deep and resonant, befitting his imposing 7-foot frame. Unlike most humans, Talon had been born on Proxima Centauri b, where higher gravity had made the colonists even stronger than Earth-born humans. "We have the firepower and the manpower," Talon said simply. "The question is whether the Council will authorize an intervention." "The Igarians have historically been wary of Deathworlders," added Dr. Ilara Voss, the chief medical officer. Her pale skin and silver hair marked her as one of the rare humans born on Europa, Jupiter's moon. "They might not welcome our help, even if we offer it." "They're asking for help from anyone," Alaric pointed out. "They're desperate." "What do we know about these Ravagers?" asked Major Diana Chen, the tactical officer. Maya activated another hologram, this one showing fragmented images captured from Igarian surveillance systems. The creatures were massive, with exoskeletons that gleamed like polished obsidian. Their limbs ended in serrated claws, and their elongated heads housed rows of needle-like teeth. "Not much," Maya admitted. They appeared in Igarian space approximately 2 Earth months ago. They've systematically attacked and destroyed 5 outer colonies. No survivors have been reported from any of these attacks. Alaric studied the images carefully. They're methodical, organized. This isn't random violence. They're executing a strategy. Sir, Talon interjected, even if we decide to help, we'd need to assemble a coalition. We can't handle this alone. Alaric nodded. Contact our allies on Drakor and Taros. Their warriors would be invaluable in this fight. The Drakorians? Dr. Voss raised an eyebrow. They're even more feared than we are. Exactly, Alaric said firmly. If we're going up against an unknown enemy with superior technology, I want the most dangerous fighters in the galaxy at my side. The meeting concluded with a decision. Alaric would lead a coalition force of Deathworlders to Icarus. The Earth Council approved the mission with a clear directive: protect Icarus and gather intelligence on the Ravagers, who could potentially pose a threat to human colonies in the future. 3 days later, Alaric stood on the bridge of the TDF Valiant, a Terran battlecruiser that would serve as the flagship for their expedition. Around them, 5 other ships from Earth, Drakor, and Taros formed a formidable battle group. All ships report ready. Colonel, Maya reported from her station. Very well. Alaric settled into the command chair. Set course for Icarus, maximum FTL. As the ships engaged their faster-than-light drives, Alaric couldn't shake a feeling of unease. The Igarians had deliberately isolated themselves from species they considered violent. Now, they were about to meet the most dangerous warriors the galaxy had to offer. The journey to Icarus would take 2 weeks at maximum FTL speed. During this time, Alaric worked tirelessly with his coalition forces to prepare for the unknown threat they would face. The Drakorians, reptilian warriors standing over 8 feet tall, with scales that could deflect standard energy weapons, were led by Warlord Kral, a veteran of 100 battles. The Tarosians, insectoid beings with exoskeletons nearly as tough as starship hull plating, had sent a contingent led by Hive Commander Zix. Together with Talon, Alaric spent hours in strategic planning sessions, analyzing the limited data they had on the Ravagers and developing potential combat scenarios. Their attacks follow a pattern, Talon observed as they studied the holographic display of Igarian settlements. They target infrastructure first: power plants, communication arrays, transportation hubs. Cutting off escape routes and calls for help, Alaric nodded. Standard invasion tactics. But look at this. Talon pointed to another data set. They don't take prisoners, don't establish bases, don't seem interested in resources. They're not invaders, Alaric realized. They're exterminators. The revelation chilled him. Whatever these Ravagers were, they weren't interested in conquest. They wanted total annihilation. On the 10th day of their journey, disaster struck. The battle group encountered a massive ion storm, a roiling cloud of charged particles that stretched across their path for light years in every direction. We can't go around it, Maya reported grimly. It would add 3 weeks to our journey. And we can't wait that long, Alaric said, looking at the latest transmissions from Igarus. The Ravagers had reached the main continent and were laying waste to major cities. We go through. The decision was risky. Ion storms could disable ship systems, scramble communications, and in worst cases, damage FTL drives beyond repair. But Alaric knew the Igarians were running out of time. All ships, adjust shields to maximum dispersion, he ordered. Form a tight formation and follow our lead. The battle group plunged into the swirling maelstrom of energy. Almost immediately, the ships began to shake violently as ion particles bombarded their shields. Shield integrity at 70% and dropping, reported the tactical officer. Maintain course, Alaric commanded. Engineering, divert all non-essential power to the shields. For 6 harrowing hours, the ships fought their way through the storm. The Valiant lost sensors and communications temporarily, and one of the Tarosian vessels suffered critical damage to its life support systems, forcing its crew to don environmental suits. When they finally emerged from the storm, 2 ships were in need of significant repairs, and all vessels reported damage to various systems. But they had made it through, and Alaric ordered a brief stop to conduct essential repairs before continuing to Igaris. That storm wasn't on any of our star charts, Talon noted as they assessed the damage reports. It's almost as if it appeared right in our path, Alaric mused. I don't like coincidences. You think the Ravagers can control stellar phenomena? Talon's skepticism was evident. I don't know what to think, Alaric admitted. But I'm starting to believe we're dealing with something far more advanced than we initially thought. After 18 hours of repairs, the battle group resumed their journey to Igaris, now more cautious about what they might encounter. 4 days later, they arrived in the Igarian system. The scene that greeted them was one of devastation. The outer planets showed signs of massive bombardment, with debris fields where moons and orbital stations had once been. Life signs on the 4th planet? Alaric asked as they approached Igaris itself. Affirmative, Maya reported. Concentrated in the eastern continent, primarily around the capital city of Elysium, but they're diminishing rapidly. And the Ravagers? Multiple ships in orbit, energy signatures unlike anything in our database. Ground forces detected across the western and central continents. Alaric made his decision. Hail the Igarian government. Let them know help has arrived. After several tense moments, a response came through. The view screen displayed a haggard-looking Igarian male, his blue skin pale with exhaustion and fear. This is High Chancellor Nereus of Igaris, he said. Who addresses us? Colonel Alaric Lorne of the Terran Defense Force. Alaric responded. We received your distress call and have brought a coalition force to assist you. Relief washed over the Chancellor's face, followed quickly by uncertainty as he took in Alaric's appearance. You are human. From Earth? Yes, Chancellor, along with allies from Drakor and Teros. The Chancellor's expression froze. Deathworlders? You sent Deathworlders to our aid? You requested help from any species willing to provide it, Alaric reminded him calmly. We are willing, and frankly, Chancellor, given what we're seeing of these Ravagers, you need warriors who know how to fight. The Chancellor conferred with others off-screen before responding. We accept your assistance, Colonel. But we have conditions. Your forces must adhere to our protocols regarding minimizing collateral damage and civilian casualties. We're not here to add to your suffering, Chancellor, Alaric assured him. We're here to end it. After negotiating landing coordinates, Alaric assembled his ground team. He would lead a force of 50 human soldiers, along with 20 Drakorians under Warlord Krall, and 30 Tarosians commanded by Hive Commander Zix. The rest of their forces would remain in orbit to engage the Ravager ships and prevent further bombardment of the planet. As they prepared to board the dropships, Talon approached Alaric. I should be going with you, he said. Alaric shook his head. I need you here, old friend. If things go sideways down there, someone needs to be ready to extract us, or finish what we started. Talon clasped Alaric's forearm in the traditional warrior's farewell. Fight well, brother. Die last. Alaric completed the ritual response with a grim smile. The descent to Igaris was surprisingly uncontested. Either the Ravagers hadn't detected their approach, or they didn't consider the small dropships a threat worth engaging. They landed in a large plaza in the heart of Elysium, the Igarian capital. Once a magnificent city of crystal spires and floating gardens, it now bore the scars of war. Many buildings were damaged or destroyed, and the air was thick with smoke and dust. A delegation of Igarians awaited them, led by a tall female with elaborate markings on her azure skin. She wore flowing robes of silver and blue, and her demeanor was one of quiet dignity despite the chaos around her. "I am Elder Lyra," she introduced herself as Alaric approached. "The High Council has appointed me as liaison to your forces." Alaric noted that despite her calm exterior, she couldn't quite hide her reaction to the imposing figures of the Dracorians and Tarosians behind him. "Colonel Alaric Lorne," he responded with a respectful nod. "These are my fellow commanders, Warlord Kral and Hive Commander Zix." Kral, towering over everyone present, bared his teeth in what passed for a Dracorian smile. Zix's mandibles clicked in their species equivalent of a formal greeting. "We have prepared a command center for you," Elder Lyra said, gesturing toward one of the few intact buildings nearby. "The High Chancellor and military leadership await your counsel." As they walked through the city, Alaric observed the Igarians they passed. The civilians looked at the Deathworlders with a mixture of fear and desperate hope. Many were injured, and all showed signs of prolonged stress. "Your people have suffered greatly," Alaric noted to Elder Lyra. "We were unprepared," she admitted quietly. "In our 5,000 years of recorded history, we have never encountered a species so bent on destruction. We had no weapons, no armies, no concept of how to defend ourselves." "And yet you've survived this long," Alaric observed. "Some of our scientists adapted research equipment into defensive barriers," she explained. "It has slowed the Ravagers, but cannot stop them. And we have hidden. There are vast underwater habitats that the Ravagers have not yet discovered." They reached the command center, where they were met by the High Chancellor and a group of Igarians wearing what appeared to be makeshift military uniforms. Among them stood a female Igarian with a stern expression and calculating eyes. Unlike the others, she carried herself with the bearing of someone familiar with combat. "Commander Rhea," the Chancellor introduced her. "She has been coordinating our defensive efforts." Rhea's gaze swept over the Deathworlders critically. "You brought 100 warriors against an enemy that numbers in the thousands? Quality over quantity." "Commander," Alaric replied evenly, "one Deathworlder is worth 100 conventional soldiers in combat scenarios." "So, I've heard," she said, her tone making it clear she remained unconvinced. "We shall see if the legends are true." The briefing that followed revealed the full extent of the crisis. The Ravagers had arrived in the Igarian system 6 weeks ago with a fleet of 15 ships. They had methodically destroyed outer colonies before landing ground forces on Igaris itself. Their tactics were brutal and efficient. They targeted infrastructure, then population centers, leaving nothing but ruins in their wake. "Have they attempted communication?" Alaric asked. "Once," Commander Rhea replied. "They sent a single message before the attacks began. Your existence is forfeit." "No demands? No terms for surrender?" "None. They seek only our extinction." Alaric studied the holographic map showing Ravager positions across the planet. "Their main force is concentrated here. Approaching from the west?" "Yes. Our latest intelligence suggests they are led by a larger entity, possibly their commanding officer. They call it the Ravager Leader. In communications we've intercepted." "Then that's our primary target," Alaric decided. "We eliminate their leadership, disrupt their command structure, and force them to withdraw." "A direct assault would be suicide," Rhea objected, "even for Deathworlders." Alaric's smile was cold. "Who said anything about direct? Warlord Kral. Your thoughts on infiltration?" The massive Dracorian rumbled thoughtfully. "The jungle terrain to the south would provide cover. My warriors can move silently despite our size. And my Tarosians can traverse vertical surfaces, added Zix. We could approach from directions they won't expect. Meanwhile, my human forces will create a diversion to draw their attention. Alaric concluded, three-pronged attack, coordinated to hit simultaneously. Commander Rhea looked skeptical but nodded slowly. It could work, but you'll need guides who know the terrain. I'll accompany the human forces, she volunteered. Elder Lyra, perhaps you could assign guides to the other groups? The planning continued well into the night. By morning, they had a strategy. Alaric would lead the human forces in what appeared to be a frontal assault, drawing the main Ravager forces into engagement. Meanwhile, the Dracorians would circle through the dense jungles to strike from the south, and the Tarosians would use their climbing abilities to approach from the cliffs to the north, where they could attack the Ravager leader's position directly. As the coalition forces prepared for battle, Alaric took a moment to observe the Agarians. Despite their lack of military experience, they were adapting quickly, learning to assist the Deathworlders with logistics, medical support, and intelligence gathering. Elder Lyra approached him as he checked his combat armor. Your plan is aggressive, she noted. The Ravagers understand only one language, Alaric replied. Violence. We need to speak it more eloquently than they do. Our people have always believed that violence only begets more violence, she said softly. Alaric paused, looking at her directly. With respect, Elder, sometimes violence is the only answer to those who would annihilate you. The galaxy isn't always kind, or just. And after? She asked. If you succeed in driving them away, what then? Do we become like you, armed and ready for war at all times? It was a profound question, one that Alaric had wrestled with throughout his career. That will be your choice, he finally said. But having the capability to defend yourselves doesn't mean you must become warmongers. It means you survive to make that choice at all. Elder Lyra considered his words. Perhaps there is wisdom in what you say. Colonel, I hope we live to contemplate it further. So do I, Alaric replied honestly. The attack was scheduled for dawn the following day. As night fell over Elysium, Alaric found himself unable to sleep. He walked to the edge of the city, where a defensive barrier hummed with energy, keeping the Ravagers at bay, temporarily. Commander Rhea was there, staring out at the distant lights of Ravager positions. She acknowledged his presence with a nod. You're not what I expected, she said after a moment of silence. What did you expect? Mindless brutes, bloodthirsty savages, she admitted. That's how Deathworlders are portrayed in our historical records. Alaric leaned against the barrier's control panel. Some of us are. Many. Actually. Growing up on worlds where every day is a fight for survival shapes a species. Yet you show restraint, strategy, even compassion. Evolution, Commander. We learned that the strongest survive, but the smartest thrive. And those who can build alliances rule. Rhea turned to face him fully. There's something you should know. Colonel, I'm not actually Igarian. Alaric raised an eyebrow but waited for her to continue. I'm from Nexus Prime, she explained. A mercenary hired by the Igarian government 5 years ago to help them develop basic defense systems. They feared something like this might happen eventually. That explains your military knowledge, Alaric noted. Why keep it secret? The Igarians are proud. They didn't want their people to know they had brought in an outsider to prepare for war. It contradicted their peaceful ideology. And now? Now they realize peace requires the ability to defend it. She sighed. But they were too late. My training program had barely begun when the Ravagers arrived. This new information added context to the situation, but didn't change Alaric's strategy. If anything, having a trained mercenary as their liaison with the Agarians would be an advantage. "Get some rest, Commander," he advised. "Tomorrow, we teach the Ravagers that they chose the wrong planet to invade." Dawn broke over Elysium with an eerie red glow that seemed fitting for the battle to come. Alaric's forces had moved into position during the night, each group accompanied by Agarian guides who knew the terrain intimately. Alaric stood with the human contingent at the edge of the forest that separated Elysium from the Ravager camp. Commander Rhea was at his side, along with 20 Agarian volunteers who had insisted on fighting for their planet, despite their lack of combat training. "Remember," Alaric addressed his team, "our job is to be loud, visible, and threatening. Draw their attention and hold it while our allies move into position." He activated his comlink. "All teams, status report." "Dracorian force in position," came Warlord Kral's rumbling voice. "Ready to strike on your mark." "Taurosian ascent complete," Hive Commander Zix reported. "We have visual on the Ravager command structure." "Confirmed," Alaric responded. "Commence Operation Thunderstrike in 3, 2, 1. Execute." The human forces burst from the forest line, weapons blazing. Alaric had equipped his soldiers with sonic disruptors, weapons designed to create maximum chaos while allowing for precise targeting. The air filled with the distinctive whine of the disruptors and the answering screech of Ravager alarm calls. The creatures responded exactly as anticipated, pouring out of their makeshift structures to face the threat. Up close, they were even more terrifying than the holographic images had suggested. Standing nearly 9 feet tall, their obsidian exoskeletons gleamed in the morning light, and their 4 arms each carried brutal-looking weapons. "Hold the line!" Alaric shouted as his forces formed a defensive perimeter. The Ravagers charged en masse, apparently unconcerned with tactics or self-preservation. The first wave met a wall of sonic fire, disrupting their exoskeletons and causing several to collapse. But more came behind them, climbing over their fallen comrades without hesitation. Alaric switched his comm to the command channel. "Status on the flanking maneuvers?" "Dracorians engaging southern perimeter," Kral reported, the sound of battle evident in the background. "Heavy resistance, but advancing." "Taurosians have breached the command center," Zix added, "but the leader is not here." "Repeat, target is not in the expected location." Alaric felt a chill run down his spine. They knew we were coming, he realized. "This is a trap!" No sooner had he spoken than the ground beneath them began to tremble. A massive shape burst from beneath the earth 50 meters to their right. A Ravager, at least twice the size of the others, its exoskeleton adorned with glowing red patterns. "The Ravager leader," Commander Rhea breathed, her voice tight with fear. The creature surveyed the battlefield with compound eyes that gleamed with malevolent intelligence. Then it focused directly on Alaric and emitted a sound that could only be described as laughter. "Deathworlders," it spoke, its voice a grating metallic sound that seemed to bypass their ears and resonate directly in their minds. "How predictable you are." Alaric raised his weapon, but the Ravager leader made a dismissive gesture. An invisible force knocked Alaric and his nearby soldiers off their feet. "Your primitive weapons cannot harm me," the creature stated. "Your strategies are transparent. Your species are nothing but animals playing at civilization." Alaric struggled to his feet, his mind racing. The Ravager leader possessed telekinetic abilities and intelligence far beyond what they had anticipated. This wasn't just an invasion. It was an extermination by a vastly superior force. But Alaric hadn't survived 2 decades of combat by giving up when the odds turned against him. All forces, converge on my position, he ordered into his comm. New target identified. The Ravager leader tilted its massive head. Brave, but futile. Your forces are already being overwhelmed. As if to emphasize its point, explosions erupted from the direction of the Dracorian position. The comm channel filled with shouts and the sounds of intense combat. "Colonel," Warlord Krail's voice came through, strained with effort. "They have some kind of energy weapons we cannot deflect, taking heavy casualties." The situation was deteriorating rapidly. Alaric needed to change tactics, to find some weakness they could exploit. "Commander Rhea," he said quietly, "what do you know about Igarian biochemistry?" She gave him a puzzled look, but answered, "Their blood contains high levels of a compound similar to mercury. It's what gives their skin its blue color." "And would that compound react with energy fields?" Understanding dawned in her eyes. "Yes. It disrupts electromagnetic patterns. It's why some of our defensive barriers have been effective." Alaric made a quick decision. "I need a vial of Igarian blood. Now!" One of the Igarian volunteers stepped forward without hesitation. "Take mine," he offered, rolling up his sleeve. While Rhea extracted a sample using a medical injector, Alaric kept the Ravager leader talking. "Why attack Igaris? What threat could these peaceful people possibly pose to you?" The creature seemed amused by the question. "Threat? They are no threat. They are simply unnecessary. The galaxy has limited resources, and only the strong deserve to consume them." "Social Darwinism on a cosmic scale," Alaric commented, buying time as Rhea finished collecting the blood sample. "Original." "Not original," the Ravager leader corrected. "Inevitable. It is the natural order of the universe. The weak perish, so that the strong may thrive." "Then you've made a critical error," Alaric said, taking the vial from Rhea. "You attacked a weak species, but summoned the strong to their defense." With that, he hurled the vial directly at the Ravager leader's face. The creature made no move to avoid it, clearly believing its telekinetic abilities would stop the projectile. But as the vial shattered against its exoskeleton, the blue Igarian blood splashed across its sensory organs and began to smoke. The Ravager leader emitted a high-pitched shriek that forced everyone nearby to cover their ears. Its telekinetic field fluctuated wildly, creating a shockwave that knocked down Ravagers and Deathworlders alike. "Now!" Alaric shouted into his comm. "All forces, concentrate fire on the leader!" From 3 directions, the Coalition forces redirected their attacks. Human sonic disruptors, Dracorian plasma lances, and Taurosian acid projectors all targeted the massive creature as it thrashed in apparent agony. The combined assault was too much even for the powerful Ravager leader. Its exoskeleton began to crack, revealing pulsating organs beneath. With a final psychic scream that left many of the attackers momentarily stunned, the creature collapsed. The effect on the other Ravagers was immediate and unexpected. They froze in their attacks, then began to retreat in disarray, many simply abandoning their weapons as they fled toward their ships. They have a hive mind, Commander Rhea realized. Kill the leader, and the rest lose direction. "Pursue and eliminate," Alaric ordered, not willing to give the enemy a chance to regroup. For the next several hours, the Coalition forces hunted down the remaining Ravagers across the western continent. Without their leader's guidance, the creatures fought with diminished effectiveness, relying on brute strength rather than tactics or coordination. By nightfall, the immediate threat to Elysium had been neutralized. The Ravager ships in orbit attempted to flee, but the Coalition vessels had been prepared for this eventuality and intercepted them, destroying most and capturing 2 for later study. The cost of victory had been high. 8 humans, 5 Dracorians, and 12 Taurosians had been killed in the fighting. Many more were wounded. The Igarians had also suffered casualties among their volunteers. despite Alaric's efforts to keep them from the front lines. In the command center, a somber meeting took place as the coalition leaders and Igarian authorities assessed the situation. "The threat has been eliminated," Alaric reported. "The remaining Ravager forces have been driven from Igarian space." "At great cost," Elder Lyra noted sadly, looking at the casualty reports. "All victories have a price," Warlord Kral rumbled. "The question is whether the price was worth paying." High Chancellor Nereus, who had remained in the secure bunker throughout the battle, addressed the coalition leaders. "We owe you a debt that can never be repaid. You have saved our world, our species. The alliance between Deathworlders and Igarians will be remembered in our histories." Elder Lyra added, "But it raises difficult questions for our future." "Such as?" Hive Commander Zix inquired, mandibles clicking thoughtfully. "Whether we must abandon our peaceful ways," the Chancellor explained. "Whether we must become more like you." Alaric understood the dilemma. The Igarians had built their entire civilization around the principles of peace and harmony. The idea of maintaining a military, of preparing for war, was anathema to their cultural identity. "If I may," he said carefully, "there is a middle path. Earth's history is filled with societies that maintained the capability to defend themselves while still pursuing peace as their primary goal. The warrior who trains every day hoping never to fight," Warlord Kral offered, surprising everyone with his philosophical insight. "Precisely," Alaric nodded. "Defense need not mean aggression. Strength need not lead to dominance." Commander Rhea stepped forward. "I have been working with your people for years to develop such capabilities. With the knowledge gained from this conflict, we can create systems that remain true to Igarian values while ensuring your survival." The Igarian leaders conferred among themselves before the Chancellor responded. "We propose an alliance, not just for this moment, but for the future. Igaris will develop defensive capabilities, with guidance from the coalition species. In return, we offer our medical and scientific knowledge, areas where we excel beyond most civilizations." It was a reasonable proposal. Igarian medical technology was indeed advanced, potentially offering benefits to all the coalition species, and helping them develop defensive systems would create a buffer zone against future threats in this sector of space. "On behalf of Earth and the Terran Defense Force, I accept this alliance," Alaric stated formally. Warlord Kral and Hive Commander Zix similarly pledged their species' support. The meeting concluded with plans for ongoing cooperation and the establishment of a small coalition base on Igaris to help with reconstruction and defense training. Later that evening, Alaric found himself standing on a balcony overlooking the city. Despite the damage from the battle, Elysium remained beautiful, its crystal spires catching the light of the setting sun. Elder Lyra joined him, her expression contemplative. "You seem troubled, Colonel. Despite our victory." Alaric considered his response carefully. "I've been fighting most of my life. Elder, defending Earth and its colonies against various threats. After a while, you start to wonder if there will ever be an end to it. The eternal warrior's dilemma," she observed. "When all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail." "Something like that," he admitted. "The Ravager leader said something that disturbed me, that the strong survive by consuming the weak. It's not so different from philosophies I've encountered among my own people." "And yet you fight against such beliefs," she pointed out. "You came to defend a species you had never met, that had historically avoided yours." "Because it was the right thing to do," he said simply. "Perhaps that is the difference between true strength and mere power," Elder Lyra suggested. "The strong protect, the powerful dominate." It was an insight that resonated with Alaric. Throughout his career, he had struggled with the warrior's path, the balance between developing the capability for violence and restraining its use to only the most necessary circumstances. Your people will change after this, he warned her gently. You cannot unknow the existence of threats like the Ravagers. You cannot return to complete innocence. Change is inevitable, she acknowledged, but perhaps we can change without losing ourselves. Learn to defend without learning to hate. Build shields without forging swords. I hope so, Alaric said sincerely. The galaxy has enough warmongers already. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Commander Rhea, who approached with a data tablet in hand. Colonel, we've completed the preliminary analysis of the captured Ravager vessels, she reported. You'll want to see this. The data revealed a disturbing truth. The Ravagers had not chosen Igaris randomly. Their navigation systems contained coordinates for dozens of other peaceful worlds, future targets for their campaign of extermination. They're systematically eliminating non-aggressive species, Alaric realized, clearing the galaxy of what they consider weakness. Which means our work isn't done, Commander Rhea noted grimly. Alaric nodded slowly. The Coalition had won a battle, but a greater war loomed on the horizon. The Ravagers were a threat not just to Igaris, but to any civilization that chose peace over militarism. We'll need to warn the other potential targets, he decided. Help them prepare, as we've done here. A Deathworlder alliance dedicated to protecting peaceful species, Elder Lyra mused. There is profound irony in that. Sometimes the most dangerous guardians are the most effective, Alaric pointed out. The question is whether we can fulfill that role without becoming what we fight against. It was a question that would define the Coalition's mission moving forward. Could species evolved for combat and survival use their natural advantages to protect rather than dominate? Could the Deathworlders become guardians of peace rather than harbingers of war? The following day, as the Coalition forces prepared to depart, leaving behind a small contingent to assist with Igaris' defense development, Alaric met with his fellow commanders to discuss their next steps. The Terran Council has approved an expanded mandate, he informed them. We're to establish a rapid response force to counter the Ravager threat wherever it emerges. The Dracorian hegemony agrees. Warlord Kral confirmed. Our warriors will join this force, as will the Terosian hive, added Zix. This threat concerns all spacefaring species. Commander Rhea had been offered a formal position as liaison between the new Coalition force and Igaris. I'll coordinate our defensive preparations here, she said, and relay any intelligence we gather from studying the captured Ravager technology. As they finalize the details of their continued cooperation, High Chancellor Nereus and Elder Lyra arrived to bid them farewell. We have something for you, the Chancellor announced, presenting Alaric with a small crystal orb. This contains the complete medical database of Igaris, our contribution to the Alliance. The value of such information was incalculable. Igarian medical technology could save countless lives across all their species. We will use it wisely, Alaric promised, accepting the gift with a formal bow. Elder Lyra stepped forward. We have also begun revising our historical records, she told him. The term Deathworlders will no longer carry negative connotations in our teachings. What will you call us instead? Alaric asked, curious. A smile touched her azure features. Guardians, she said simply. For that is what you have proven yourselves to be. The title felt weighty, a responsibility as much as an honor. Alaric wasn't sure if any of them, humans, Dracorians, or Terosians, truly deserved such reverence. They were warriors who had done what warriors do, fight. But perhaps in choosing who and what to fight for, they had begun to transcend their violent origins. As Alaric boarded the shuttle that would return him to the Valiant, He took a final look at Elysium. The city was already beginning to rebuild, with Igarians and coalition forces working side by side to clear rubble and repair structures. It was a small victory in what promised to be a long campaign against the Ravagers, but a meaningful one. Talon was waiting on the Valiant's bridge when Alaric returned. "Mission accomplished?" he asked. "For now," Alaric replied. "But we've discovered it's just the beginning. The Ravagers have a list of targets, peaceful worlds they plan to eliminate." "So we go from one battle to a war," Talon observed with a resigned sigh. "A war worth fighting," Alaric corrected him. "Protecting those who cannot protect themselves. Isn't that why we joined the Defense Force in the first place?" Talon's expression softened slightly. "Before we became cynical old soldiers? Yes, I suppose it was." As the Valiant and the rest of the Coalition fleet departed Igarian space, setting course for their next destination, a small agricultural world called Verdant that appeared on the Ravagers' target list, Alaric found himself contemplating Elder Lyra's words. Guardians. It was a noble concept, but one that came with profound challenges. The line between protection and control was often thin, and power, even when wielded with the best intentions, could corrupt. If the Deathworlders were to become protectors of peaceful species throughout the galaxy, they would need to remain vigilant not just against external threats like the Ravagers, but against their own potential to dominate those they defended. In his quarters that night, Alaric recorded a personal log entry, something he had done after every mission since joining the Defense Force. Igaris mission complete. Casualties higher than anticipated, but acceptable given the threat level. The Coalition performed admirably under adverse conditions. However, the discovery of the Ravagers' broader extermination campaign presents a new strategic challenge. On a personal note, this mission has forced me to reconsider the role of Deathworlders in galactic society. We have evolved to survive harsh conditions, to fight and conquer. But perhaps our true purpose is something else entirely. Perhaps we were meant to be shields for those who choose a different path. The Igarians call us Guardians now. I don't know if we deserve the title yet, but it's something to aspire to, a purpose beyond mere survival or dominance. Tomorrow, we set course for Verdant, another peaceful world, another potential victim. We'll arrive before the Ravagers this time, prepare the population, set up defenses. It won't be easy, teaching peace-loving farmers to protect themselves without fundamentally changing who they are. But if Igaris is any indication, it's possible. For now, that's enough. Alaric ended the recording and turned his attention to the tactical displays showing their course to Verdant. The journey would take 3 weeks, time they would use to repair their ships, treat their wounded, and plan for the next confrontation. The Ravagers had made a critical error in their campaign of extermination. They had assumed that peaceful species were isolated and vulnerable. They hadn't counted on the emergence of an alliance between those species and the very Deathworlders they had dismissed as mere brutes. It was an alliance that would reshape the power dynamics of the galaxy. The Ravagers sought to eliminate what they perceived as weakness, but in doing so, they had inadvertently created something new, a coalition of the most dangerous warriors in known space, united in defense of the peaceful. As the Valiant engaged its FTL drive, leaving the Igarian system behind in a blur of stars, Alaric allowed himself a moment of hope. The path ahead would be difficult, fraught with battles and hard decisions. But for the first time in his long military career, he felt he was fighting not just against something, but for something, a galaxy where strength protected peace rather than exploiting it. It was a worthy cause for a Deathworlder, for a Guardian. And as the ship accelerated toward their next mission, Alaric made a silent promise to the peaceful worlds that lay in the Ravager's path. The most dangerous species in the galaxy were coming, not to conquer, but to defend. Not to destroy, but to preserve. The Agarian distress signal had summoned the most dangerous Deathworlders in the galaxy, and the galaxy would never be the same.